I'm Charisse LeClaire. The September 9th primary is just weeks away, and we want your vote to count. CBS 3 Springfield, The Republican, MassLive.com, and New England Public Radio have joined together to bring you a detailed look at the candidates running for public office. Now here's the Republicans' political reporter, Robert-rizzuto, to introduce us to the state Senate race for the 2nd Hampden and Hampshire district.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We are here to have a campaign roundtable discussion for the 2nd Hampden-Hampshire Senate District in Massachusetts. Our panel first is the Republicans' the Director of Reader Engagement, Rob Genest, and also from that department, Jane Kaufman. Thank you both for joining us. And then up here to my left, we have the Democratic primary challengers for the seat currently held by Don Humison. To my left is Christopher-Hopewell. Thank you very much for joining us, Chris.
Pleasure to be here.
And Patrick Leahy. A little bit about our candidates. Mr. Hopewell is the chairman of the Holyoke Fire Commission and the director of the coordinator of emergency services at Cooley-Dickinson Hospital in Northampton. And Mr. Leahy is a Holyoke police officer since 2003, and he's also a realtor. The gentlemen are competing in the Democratic primary, where the winner will go on to take on Don Humison, who is a Republican incumbent in this race. Before last year's special election, the seat was held for 18 years by Mike Knapik, who was also a Republican. The district is a sweeping one, like many Senate districts in the state of Massachusetts. And in Hampden County, this consists of parts of Holyoke, Westfield, Agawam, Granville, Montgomery, Russell, Southwick, Tolland, and Chicopee. In New Hampshire County, there's parts of Southampton and East Hampton included in this. So again, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
We will just jump right into our first question. The first one pertains to both your hometowns in Holyoke. We were talking about the issue of the Morgan Street School. The Morgan Street School is under state receivership after 3 years of warning since 2010, where the staff during that period has failed to turn around what's been described as a plunge in students not being able to read, write, or do arithmetic well. So my question is basically looking at the state control issue. Is this a process that you agree with? And what's your take on the situation at the Morgan Street School? And Mr. Hopewell, if you can start us off here.
First, I'm concerned with the state involvement with the Morgan Street School. Certainly, I think Superintendent Paez had a great plan, or has a great plan, to try to get that school's performance up. Clearly, the teachers, administrators, and all the students work very hard day in and day out to bring about a better performance. I certainly believe that we need to invest more in public education. I believe that the Morgan School certainly can do much better than what it's doing with the proper support. I don't believe that bringing in an outside agency from Texas really has the best interests of the community in mind. I totally believe that the state is trying their best with the Department of Education, but I believe that we locally in Holyoke know our students and know how we can best meet their needs.
Mr. Leahy.
That's a great question, and it's one that, as a police officer in the city of Holyoke, I work very closely with the staff at Morgan School. Actually, a lot of the things that we do in the South Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative happens at Morgan School. You did say one of the things, I don't believe it's a failure of the teachers or the school so much, is just the position they're put in. This goes back to testing. So the testing is saying that we're failing, but I don't agree that testing is the best way to determine that the student's ability. We have a population in Holyoke. We teach and educate everyone who comes to us, and they do a great job at that. The teachers have been fantastic, and I know firsthand, being in the schools as a police officer, that these teachers care. I think it was indicative of how talented our principal was there, that when the takeover was announced, she was immediately headhunted by other communities, and she ended up in Southampton very quickly. And she's been a fantastic principal there. I do not like the program that there's a private company coming in to oversee the public schools. They're a for-profit company, and I just think that that doesn't meld very well with our philosophy. There are things that we need to do differently. I don't know if it's changing the testing. We have a lot of time that's spent teaching to the test right now, and I was just told that they're no longer teaching literature as part of these new programs for the in the school system. So you can take, if you want to teach Mark Twain, you can take out segments of the book and just teach those little segments, but the child can't read the whole book. And anyone who's read Mark Twain, if you don't read the whole book, you miss the whole point. So those are alarming, the things that I'm finding out about the new system, the way we're teaching. So I think that needs to be addressed at the state level, and I think as a next state senator, those are the things that I want to get into, and I want to delve into that as a policy wonk and really get in there and make sure that we have the right processes in place. And just to say that we failed and that's the underperforming school is easy. It's a soundbite. It's something that the Tea Party likes to do. Some of our opponent likes. It's very easy to dismiss, but there's a very complicated issue when we need to delve into it.
Gotcha. I guess just real quickly on this topic, if the state approach, I think you both say they have the best intentions perhaps, but the method isn't best. What could we do differently as a state to kind of manage these schools when they fall into these kind of rough situations, as far as the testing is concerned, or by any other metric?
Certainly, the issues in Holyoke in our school systems have been ongoing, and certainly we need to give them the resources they need. Currently, right now, a lot of money goes out of the school system for charter schools. I'm not a supporter of the charter school.
I think it drains too much on the public school system.
Too much out of the public schools, and that is currently right at the top. I certainly believe the children, all children, have ability to learn. And as a state senator, we have to find other areas in the budget where cities like Holyoke don't have to, over years, we're a $4.5 million in the budget deficit off the top that they have to cut. So those right there, they have their hands behind their backs. So we need, as a legislature, as a state senator, to find other areas in the budget where we can move those funds into cities like Holyoke and other gateway cities.
Find a way
to find a way to help these school districts, give them the tools so they can work and educate our children.
Find places to cut, give them additional resources. Mr. Leahy.
It's very interesting. As I'm talking to people on the campaign trail, some of the priorities that are constantly mentioned are public safety and education. And that needs to be our priorities when we're down at the State House when we're talking about funding. Now, there's only a limited there's a limited pool of money that we have.
Certainly.
And we need to reprioritize that. And with the city of Holyoke, I agree with Chris, $7.6 million from the school budget right off the top goes to charter schools and school choice. In Westfield, it's a couple $100,000. In Chicopee, it's a couple $100,000. Then it goes a little smaller. Agawam, I think, is in the $98,000 range. These are real dollars that we need. We have brick and mortar schools that we still need to upkeep. We still have the schools and the classrooms that need to be funded. We still need the textbooks. We still need to pay for our gas and our utility bills. These are all things that while the charter school proponents will say, they're giving, they're streamlining things and making it easier. I disagree with the charter schools. I think that they're making it harder for us to provide a good public school education with the limited tax dollars that they get already. Now we're handcuffing them even more by lopping off $7.6 million in Holyoke. That's a lot of money. So we need to reinvest that in the city of Holyoke.
So it's a matter of the public funding, the charter school system. This is something on both your radar where you look at to make some changes and reinvest back in the public school system.
And I'd just like to add, between charter schools and public schools, we need to level the playing field. Both charter schools and public schools need to be measured in the same way. Charter schools get to pick students that are most gifted. They don't have to deal with special needs children. They have oftentimes for-profit companies that come out and manage them. So if we're going to have, parents have the right to choose whatever education is correct for their child. However, I'm a public school product. I believe in public schools, and I'm certain that if we level the playing field, that charter schools have to go by the same rules as public schools, I think we'll see a lot better programs, and I think we'll see a lot better performance out of all our public schools.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We are going to talk about the area's military bases. in Chicopee, we have the Westover Air Reserve Base and Barnes up in Westfield. And there is this almost perennial fear now that cuts in Washington, downsizing the military is going to have this horrible effect on these local bases and thus the money that they pump into the local economy. As a state senator, what would you do to, help ensure that these bases remain solvent, for Western Massachusetts into the future and preserve perhaps, this level of economic development that's already intact? Mr. Leahy, we can start with you. I'm sorry, Mr. Hopewell, we can start with you.
First and foremost, we have to recognize the security needs of our country on almost a daily basis. And we've seen this in the news, again, almost hourly, that our security interests are changing. And Barnes plays a significant role in the security on the East Coast. There's been a federal decision on downsizing both Barnes and Westover. And those two facilities are key and vital in our defense. But we have to be prepared to deal with the negative downsizing of both Chicopee and Westfield. As a veteran myself, I see the value of both those facilities. They're very near and dear to my heart. But it's important to remember the commitment of our veterans and our current service members and women who serve our country. And we must commit to ensuring that whatever happens, and it could be 2 years down the road, it could be 3 years, they really haven't decided wholeheartedly how it's going to affect. We do know there's going to be cuts. Right. So we have to prepare both our men and women in the military in helping them in their military roles, but also helping them to move on to the civilian side and give them the best skills and opportunities they can to transition.
Gotcha. Mr. Leahy.
Westover and Barnes, not only are they critical in our defense with our military, they are the economic engine of their region, which is squarely in our district here. Westover is $225 million of economic engine and drive. Every cut that is felt at Westover reverberates throughout the district. So we've got to make sure that we work with our federal delegation to make sure that we present the best case possible. Now, it's not lost on anyone that Westover, of course, is the closest large base closest to the European theater. So we have a natural geographical advantage, but they're already slated to cut half of the C5As that are going to be there. Right. With that goes 338 jobs. So now we're already seeing reductions. We need to fight with our delegation to make sure that we use innovative ideas, and they're already doing that at Barnes. They're opening it up to private employment, so they can have private companies using and utilizing that space to make sure, and that also goes hand in hand with our educational system. The skill gap that we have, Westfield is now doing some great things with making sure that we create a pipeline from the skill gap, from the people who are looking for jobs but don't have the skill necessarily yet in aviation. Westfield State and the holyoke-schools are now putting in place programs, and I would support that wholeheartedly in the Senate, to make sure that the kids or the children, that when they graduate, they can either go into a vocational program, go into the service, go on to college. But that's one of the things that we can do, is make these more vital and make them more profitable in the private sector. Diversify it so it's not just a military X and O. When the military looks at it and the Defense Department goes, well, we don't need X amount of C5As anymore. All right, well, now we have a housing boom because people are moving out of the area.
Gotcha. So, working closely with our federal delegation, on one hand, and also working to diversify these bases so they aren't reliant entirely on military aspects. Well, very good answers, gentlemen. Thank you. We're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back with the next segment momentarily.